Thank you. All right, greetings everyone. Thank you guys for coming out. My name is Wes Munn. I'm a senior technical writer, training content creator at Epic Games. And I'll also be joined by Jeremy Chapman and Steve Bowler from CloudGate Studios, who I'll hand it off to in just a moment. Today we're here to talk about shipping a VR game with Unreal Engine. And there's quite a bit to that. Before we get to the shipping portion of this talk, however, I wanted to take a moment to highlight some of the resources available to help you even get started working with VR in Unreal Engine if you haven't before. We'll quickly cover the VR platforms that we support, how to initiate VR play inside the Unreal Engine, content creation with our VR editor, and then we'll jump into some tips and tricks or things to keep in mind when developing your VR content. These are things that we do on a day-to-day basis when developing our VR content at Epic, on our demo projects and demos. And this will help smooth out your path towards shipping your own projects. I'll then hand it over to the guys from CloudGate who can talk more about their process and strategies that they use for shipping their games. Nice selfie. So let's see, first thing first, what virtual reality platforms does Unreal Engine support? We currently support the devices that you see here. And this list will continue to grow as more and more platforms become available. And with the release of our latest engine update, we now have full support for, well, I should say, initial support for Google Daydream device. Full support, more integrated features will be coming in our 4.14 release. So whether you're developing for mobile platforms, consoles, or PC, your Unreal Engine project will work with all of these platforms right out of the box. The only thing that you need to do is to enable your desired platform through our plugins menu, which you can do inside the editor from the Edit Plugins option under the Virtual Reality section. After enabling your plugin, when you restart the editor, you will have all the necessary hooks that you need for Unreal Engine to work on your desired platform. Even better, each of these platforms we support go through Unreal Engine 4's common VR interfaces. This means that you can make your content once and deploy it to any other device. We use a unified camera and motion controller systems. So your content will work, for example, on both Oculus and Vive in terms of HMD and motion controller tracking, as well as PSVR or other mobile devices. There's nothing extra that you need to do for those devices other than to have the plugin enabled. We've optimized and continue to optimize our rendering paths for improved performance with every engine release. And as you all know, latency is super important, so we update cameras, attachments, and motion controllers right before we kick off GPU thread work to make sure they feel as snappy as possible. This makes a huge difference on 60 Hz platforms as it improves responsiveness of tracking devices and better reflects what the player is doing in the real world. Let's see. Get my notes together. We offer the ability to test your VR game directly inside the editor with a VR preview option. This is right off of the main toolbar inside the editor. This will give you the opportunity to quickly launch your game into VR and start playtesting. When launching your game with this option, HMD tracking is automatically enabled and detected, providing any necessary background applications are up and running as well, such as Steam VR. Motion controllers, if you are not using one of our template projects, which I'll highlight in a moment, require a little bit more setup to do, but once you do, the tracking for these are also automatically detected. There's nothing extra that you need to do. We have documentation and video tutorials on setting up motion controllers. If you have not done so already, it's pretty straightforward. I can assure you that. The only real caveat with the VR preview is that you can only have one device active at a time, and that device must be connected prior to launching your project. If you connect your device after the project has already been loaded, this will require an editor restart, and I'm guilty of that to this day. So where do I start? What's next? I'm ready to start creating VR experience in UE4. Where do I go from here? Well, once you've downloaded and installed Unreal Engine 4 and launched the latest version, we offer up several project templates that you can use to get started with your project. These are available from the project browser window. And each of our templates already support VR play where it makes sense. We don't have a 2D side-scroller VR template just yet, but we do have first-person, third-person, vehicle, top-down. Each of these support VR play when you load up the project. So you load up the project, hit VR preview, and boom, you're starting to play in VR with the makings of your own project to start from. Also, as of our 4.13 engine release, we've included a new specialized VR template project. This includes a few examples of player navigation in VR, as you see here, as well as some interactions with motion controllers, if you have those connected, how to pick up things and interact with the world. What's great is you can pick this apart, the blueprints involved in this project apart, and see how they were constructed, or you can work within the template to start creating your own project. You can also migrate those assets over into your existing projects to use those as well. And this works on all devices and supports VR with or without motion controllers. So once you've created your project and it's up and running, one of the cool things that we introduced earlier this year is the ability to create VR content in VR with our VR editor. If you watched the keynote, Tim kind of talked about this a little bit. It's still in development, but it must be enabled from the editor preferences window. But what you'll get essentially is the Unreal editor in VR. It's not like you have to learn a new tool set. It's the exact same tool set that you're used to working with. You use the same content browser to drag assets into the level. Like the normal editor, you'll see familiar gizmos to scale, move and rotate objects in your level, and you can apply materials to meshes, affect lighting, alter landscapes. And more stuff for this is being developed by our team at Epic to make this a viable option for content creation. We're just now scratching the surface of what's possible with VR editing. And what we've found is that this is a great option for broad stroke level design, as well as fine tuning, as you can get a firsthand look at what your game will look like while you're constructing it. We're also looking into which editors make sense to use in VR. Do we want to allow users the ability to perform blueprint scripting in VR? Maybe. Technically, you can do that now, but we're looking at what makes sense and how it can be used in VR. We want to give you the choice of how to develop your content in Unreal, which is why we're continuing to improve and add new features to this form of development. During the development of your project, I'm sure there's going to be things that come up, questions that you might have. For those of you that are completely new to Unreal or thought about experimenting with it, or even experienced professionals, I'd recommend you check out our official documentation pages at docs.unrealengine.com. We offer quite a bit of learning resources, and we update this weekly. There's getting started and step-by-step guides, feature-based technical reference pages, sample projects, video tutorials, tons and tons of great content here for you to digest, not just for VR, but for any kind of UE4 development, really. Some of the sections are also broken up by skill level, so you can tackle the beginner stuff if you're new, and then move on to intermediate or advanced sections. You can move at your own pace. Our VR section is also broken down by platform and per topic, so you can get tips and tricks on VR development in general or platform-specific guidelines as well. Highly, highly recommend that you check this out. I'm sure some of you have already, but if you are coming from other engines, definitely a valuable resource to tap. Advance, there we go. Oh, back one. Another resource that we offer is our Answer Hub, which you can visit by going to answers.unrealengine.com. If you have a specific question that isn't specifically called out in our docs just yet, you can come up to Answer Hub, post your question to the community who might be able to help. But it's not just the community that you'll get responses from. We have staff at Epic that monitor these questions regularly and will respond with answers. Our development team will also jump in from time to time with responses as well. It's another great resource to tap during development when you hit a roadblock and you need some help. Let's see, the last bit of website plugging that I'll do here is our official Unreal Engine Twitch channel. We offer live streams twice a week, every Tuesday and Thursday on our Twitch channel. On the Tuesday stream, we usually do topic-based live training. We'll build something live, like a gameplay mechanic or something, and then we'll break it down in depth and answer any questions that you might have about it. It's funny, the guys behind the VR game Raw Data came up to me and a colleague of mine back at GDC this past year, and they told us how they regularly watch our Twitch streams and how it's helped them during the development of their project, which was cool to hear. We're here to help you guys however we can, and these streams are a great way for us to get involved with you, the developers, and the community. Thursday's stream, we usually bring in developers from Epic who highlight new engine features, where we break down those features that are newly released or about to be implemented and talk about how you can start working with them. Or sometimes we have guests come on from other studios talking about their development process and tips for working with Unreal. So our Twitch, our docs, Answer Hubs, even our forums are all great places to learn, and we can always learn more. I know I could. So to close out this early portion of my talk, we got some ideas on how to get started, but I wanted to call out some general tips for VR development in UE4 that may help you reach the finish line and ultimately ship your games. These are things that we tell our partners, we stress in our documentation, and tell the community whenever we can. As we all know, VR games are demanding, and performance is critical in VR, as poor performance can lead to shuddering or lag, which can ruin your player's experience, cause motion sickness, resulting in players putting down your game, and we all don't want that. So it's imperative that you maintain your target frame rate. I'm sure a lot of you know this as well. I can't stress that enough. Usually for Oculus and Vive kits, you try to shoot for 90 frames a second, but it may vary based on your device. Try and use the stat FPS or stat unit commands in the console for a breakdown of your current frame rate, and keep an eye on this early and often, as you're going to want to check your frame rate and see where you stand. If poor performance is affecting your frame rate, what can you do to improve your performance? There's a couple different things you could do. The first thing that you should do is enable VR instance stereo rendering from your project settings. This optimization makes it more efficient for the engine to render stereoscopic images for VR headsets. Previously, the engine rendered a stereoscopic image by drawing everything for the left eye and then drawing everything for the right eye. With instant stereo rendering, we render both eyes at the same time, which significantly cuts down on the work done by the CPU and improves efficiency in the GPU. This video here illustrates that process that we introduced, I think it was back in Engine 4.11, the 4.11 update. When we enabled this for our Bullet Train VR demo, we were seeing 15 to 20% CPU improvement on the render thread and about a 7 to 10% improvement on the GPU. Now, this currently only works for PC and PS4. However, support for additional devices is coming soon. Another great tip is to get used to performance profiling. Embrace it and do it often. Performance is key to VR games, really any game in general. You can have the most innovative, immersive, incredible experiences in your game, but if it runs like crap, nobody's going to play it. Unreal Engine has several profiling tools that you can use to see how your game is running. For CPU profiling, you can use the stat scene rendering and stat game commands. Stat scene rendering shows general rendering statistics. This is a good starting point to find general areas of slow performance in the rendering process. Stat game will give you feedback on how long the various gameplay ticks are taking and what's ticking at any given time. So if you have a lot of things occurring every tick, it may start to affect your performance, and stat game will show you this. For GPU profiling, you can use the GPU visualizer, which is Control-Shift-Comma inside the editor. This tool will help you find out where GPU cost is going and is essential for breaking down bottlenecks caused by the GPU. Also, just introduced with the latest engine release, a new real-time GPU profiler has gone into the build. Currently, you can enable it through the console, and it provides per-frame stats for each of the major rendering categories. And those stats are cumulative, so you can see all the major categories without having to dig through a tree of events to get relevant information. Now, this is a new feature. It's still early in its infancy, and we're still continuing to support it, and additional documentation will be coming online for it shortly. Continuing with performance, a quick way to gain back some performance from the CPU is with our Blueprint to C++ conversion tool. This is also still in development as we continue to refine it, but you can start to test it out now and see how it affects your project's performance. You also have to enable this from the packaging section of your project settings. This is a great tool for expensive blueprints that use complex calculations on TIC or networking code done in Blueprint. Converting those over to native C++ code could be a way to reduce the virtual machine overhead at runtime. That's not to say that games cannot be made entirely in blueprints and still perform reliably. Quite a few games have done that to date, but you can experiment and see what works best in your given situation. Another thing you could do to optimize your project for shipping is to disable any heavy post-processors. Due to the demanding requirements of VR, many of the advanced post-processing features you would normally use should be disabled initially. And I say initially because ultimately this is up to you. If your game is performing well, you could add those features back over time and see how it affects your performance. It's a lot easier to add to your project than it is to strip away, especially as you're getting close to shipping your project. We usually recommend disabling things like lens flare, screen space reflections, temporal AA, screen space ambient occlusion, and bloom. Our VR best practices documentation page covers this pretty well and walks you through this process. Again, these tips are optional, but are good places to start looking in terms of where optimizations can be made. Lighting is another area for potential optimizations. For lighting, try to use static lighting over stationary or dynamic lights. Baked lights are the best option, as that will produce the best performance. In our bullet train demo, we originally used tons of dynamic lights, and that killed our performance. After some reevaluation, we ended up faking most of the lighting that you see. And we use the desktop deferred renderer because we have access to a lot of information about the scene in the G-buffer. We can cheat and create a lot of optimizations and effects leveraging that information. We ended up storing all of the complex calculation for lighting in a texture. Whoops, let me go back to that one. And projecting that texture onto the world, which saved quite a bit of rendering at runtime. This allowed us to devote those resources elsewhere for other rendering-intensive tasks. We believe in leveraging the power of the deferred renderer as it provides the most versatility along with more rendering features. However, there are some trade-offs in going with the deferred renderer that might not be right for all VR experiences. Forward rendering provides a faster baseline with faster rendering passes and better anti-aliasing options, which is why we're also working on a UE4 native forward renderer. And that initial implementation of our forward renderer just came online with our latest engine release. Our 4.13 release notes should have a little bit more information on that, and continued support for that will come in our 4.14 and future releases. Going here. Some additional lighting tips include, but are not limited to, making sure your stationary and dynamic lights do not overlap, as this will cause a hit to rendering performance. If you're using dynamic shadows, try limiting yourself to only having one shadowing light. Again, more lights, more dynamic shadows, more performance costs. Dynamic objects should use the single sample shadow from stationary light option. This can be set on a per actor basis. And this makes shadow receiving on dynamic objects much cheaper at the cost of some quality. You'll have to experiment with this option and see what objects in your game can benefit from enabling this option. Going back to profiling, use the stat light rendering console command to see how long lighting and shadows are taking to render. And also try to set a limit to the capture resolution of reflection capture actors. If you have multiple people working on your project, a unified performance guideline or a technical design doc might help with this and keep everybody in line. These are just some of the lighting tips that you could use. The performance and profiling section of our docs will give you a few more. For effects, mesh-based VFX, from our experience, seem to work the best. Card-based effects like the fire scene here, those work great in traditional games, but not so much in VR. Any camera-facing particles do not seem to hold up well, so we try to avoid them wherever we can, especially if they're within close proximity to your players. Translucency is also very expensive to render per frame, and you can fake translucency in UE4 through opacity masking with the dither temporal A material function for you material folks out there. It's not 100% translucent, but will give you a very similar effect for a much cheaper rendering cost. Our doc pages have examples of this as well, step-by-step guides showing you how to set this up. I believe our Showdown demo also used this as well for the smoke trail particle effect. Use the stat particles console command to view ticking particles and call counts, and keep an eye on this. And then also check out Epic Marketplace. There are some Infinity Blade assets, the Infinity Blade Effects Pack. It's free and has tons of great content that you can use in your own projects. And it's actually not just for effects. There are a bunch of Infinity Blade packs on the marketplace that you can use for prototyping. We use it all the time back at the headquarters there for prototyping with characters, animations, environments. Thousands and thousands of great assets available at your fingertips that you can use in your own projects for free. Free stuff is always good. And finally, some things that you may want to consider when creating your environments. Use reflection probes instead of screen space reflections. Screen space reflections are more expensive and may not give you the look that you want in VR. Reflection probes are cheaper and easier to manage. They'll record parts of the level to static cube maps, which then can be sampled by materials for use in their reflective parts. It's a much cheaper alternative. All the reflections in our Showdown demo were handled by reflection probes. Use HLOD and be aggressive with LODs on your static meshes. You can enable hierarchical LODs from the World Settings menu. This is a relatively new feature, but will automatically create LODs for groups of meshes, reducing draw calls. This is a great tool. It can help you optimize your environments with minimal effort on your part. Be mindful and limit material usage. For each material static mesh has applied to it, the rendering engine will have to render that object again and again. And this can escalate quickly if you do not have any restrictions in place. You can enable shader complexity viewport mode by pressing Alt-8. This will show you how expensive a pixel is to render. Bright green means that the pixel is cheap, while red to white indicates pixels are costing more to render. Try to merge assets, if you can, with our Merge Actor tool. This will combine multiple static meshes into a single new actor, reducing or resulting in less draw calls. Materials will also be baked together into a single material with a series of custom textures. It's really easy to use. Select your desired meshes, merge them together, and that's a quick instant savings. To go along with that, try not to be too modular with your meshes. Bigger groups of meshes will result in less draw calls. Again, the Merge Actor tool can also help with this, or enabling HLOD. And then also use the stat scene rendering command to see the amount of draw calls being made for more info. So I know that was a bit of a brain dump, a lot of stuff there to cover. It's about all the time that I have. But most of what I've covered can be found on our official documentation pages at docs.unrealengine.com. I believe this session will also be posted online, so you can review it as well on YouTube a little bit later. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm going to pass this off now to Jeremy Chaplin from CloudGate, who will be discussing his team's Blueprint visual scripting practices, as well as their development process in working with Unreal Engine 4. So thank you guys so much. Okay, are you going to go first?
Yep. So sorry, we switched up the order.
You did switch up the order.
I know. We just wanted to screw Wes up.
Thanks.
So we're CloudGate Studio, Jeremy and I. We are literally the only two creatives at the entire studio. We have a third business partner who helps us with our international dealings and stuff like that. And we formed CloudGate because we realized we were pretty good at doing VR, and because Unreal 4 made our lives really easy, like a slam dunk. And we're going to try and walk you through that process of like why we use Unreal 4 and how we came to form CloudGate Studio. So for everybody out there in the audience who might not know who we are, we're the guys who made the original Brookhaven experiment demo. Quick show of hands. Does anybody know what Brookhaven is in the audience? People familiar with it? Awesome. Okay, and then we left and we formed CloudGate and we made Island 359, which is out in early access. Is anybody out here heard of Island 359? Yep, like less than half of the Brookhaven thing. So we did a great job getting the Brookhaven message out there. And hey, the good news is now all of you will know what Island 359 is after this talk. So one of the things that we've got here that we want to show you, just a reminder for folks, if you haven't seen Brookhaven, this is my favorite video. This is Renata, I think I'm saying her name right. Brookhaven we had to make using very simple mechanics. And we wound up creating a lot of emotional connections for people with it. Just a short clip. Nope, it's not going to play it.
It's not playing it.
Do I have to hit the play button on here? Maybe I can.
You can do it from there.
Can I just click on it from here? Do I click on the video?
There you go.
The audio's on. The translation on that is great. Her husband's saying, I think somebody's going to think someone was murdered in here. That was Brookhaven. The demo is really simple. Like I said, simple mechanics created a really deep emotional connection for players. Because there's basically one mechanic in the game. You shoot enemies. We literally have you pick things in the menu by pulling the trigger. We'll go into that a little bit more later. And then when we made Island 359, we wanted to go for more deeper interactions. We wanted you to be able to move throughout the world. We added a movement mechanic. We wanted you to be able to engage with the environment in a similar fashion to like Job Simulator, like open all the things and pick the things up and attach them, and like do what VR does best and be very handsy and get to work with your hands on things. So anyway, this is Tribal Instinct playing it. It's not nearly as dramatic as Renata's video. But and I think our audio is off in these videos. But you can see that he's moving through the world. He's got a melee mechanic here, shooting things. And as soon as he's done with these guys, I think he pulls the backpack out, which is why we use this clip, so you can see our backpack mechanic. And
Nope. Jump.
Yep. So very natural, like right where a backpack should be. Pulling off his back. You could throw the knife if you wanted to, picks the gun up. It becomes, once you learn what the interacts are, it just becomes a very natural part of playing the game. Like your human instinct sort of takes over, and you just behave like a human in it. We don't have to teach you to do something differently than how you normally do it. So, and a lot of people tell us that the presence in Island 359 is really deep, that they feel like they're in a jungle, that they'll swear that it's hot and sweaty when it's obviously not. So, back to the talk, we just want to give you guys some background info. So Jeremy and I shipped 2 Steam VR games in 5 months with just 2 people, right? You might ask, how would you go about doing that? Step 1, just do this, get it over with. Go puke in the toilet. It's going to be rough. You're going to be pretty nervous about it. Because it's not just making a game and taking it to your friend's house and showing it to him. I mean, we went through the entire ship process through Steam and got it to the marketplace so that you could actually download it as a consumer and play it. And a lot of things have to go into that. To do that, you're going to have to be really fast and nimble. You're going to have to relearn how to do a lot of things that you didn't know you had to like do before. You're going to have to throw out your pre-existing preconceptions about game development. And obviously, you're going to have to assess your existing pipelines for development and figure out how to solve for those. And of course, because it's part of this talk and because Jeremy and I really love using it, you should really just use Unreal 4 because it's actually going to make your life easier. So the practice run, this was like the big headline, 2 guys, 3 weeks, 1 90 frame per second demo. We made it in 3.5 weeks, again, using simple interacts, shoot all the things. You literally can just use it. If you want to pick an upgrade, you shoot it. If you want to access a menu, you shoot it. We just talked about like reach out and touch things with bullets is your only interaction in the game. And it works surprisingly well. Lack of movement, that's great. We don't have to make movement. Roomscale solved it for us. And then to make the game, because art is slow, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later, we had to buy or scrounge for all the assets, either if we had them pre-existing or we went through marketplaces and bought them. And again, we're going to cover that extensively later. And then on top of that, we had to manage the entire store presence, the PR, and the marketing for the demo as well. So when we left and decided we wanted to do this on our own, we asked, and a lot of people asked, can lightning strike twice? And what we realized we had to do is, how can we expand off of what we learned by making the Brookhaven experiment? Can we get a sellable VR game out in 3 months? The answer is no. It took 4 months. But that's still pretty good. So we realized we need to prototype at lightning speed. We need to innovate on our movement mechanics and come up with really, really interesting interacts. We're going to need to purchase all of our content. There's no way we have time to make any content. And now we're not only going to have to manage the store, but also we're going to have to do payroll and taxes, pay lawyers because we're going to have to incorporate. There was a lot of overhead that goes into forming your own company and running your own business that I think a lot of people don't understand, and we want to touch on that a little bit today too. Lastly, we joke about this all the time, but it's serious. Just try not to die. You're going to work a lot of hours, and you're going to be working really hard, and you have to stay conscious of your own health while you're doing this. And if you're starting to feel ill, stop staying up till 3 in the morning trying to get your work done. So first off, we realized that the old AAA game dev teams and pipelines are just too slow. Everybody's seen this org chart before. Whoops, my font size has got a little blown out. But we've all seen it. It's a top-down approach of management for teams. EPs at the top, directors, lead designers, like lead position seniors, and the juniors that fall out from the bottom there. This is a very inflexible format. The decision-making happens at a glacial pace. If somebody says, I don't like the way that this movement works, it's got to be decided by committee, and it's got to go back up the line, and then they're going to hold a meeting about it, and maybe it'll trickle back down, and by the time, like, that's just too late for the way we operate, right? So we're going to have to redefine team, and to do that, we had to enlist our help of Coach Homer. I don't know, you guys have seen this bit, like producers, just no, they're cut. Art team, you're cut, you're too slow. Programmers, you're too expensive, and believe it or not, you're also too slow. Audio, sorry, we love you guys, but nope, UI is also cut, and anybody, what about QA, what about these? No, they're all cut. It's just Jeremy and I, we're gonna make this thing. So, we arrived at the conclusion that content is easily the most cost-ineffective part of game development. And I want to be very clear here. This isn't artists don't deserve to get paid. They do. We both have BFAs. We're artists by nature. I want artists to get paid for their work. The problem is it's very, very slow and time-consuming to make good assets, and that's not where our time is best spent. As an example, this pot I found on TurboSquid. It's a good-looking pot. They got some nice, aluminum, material on there, so it looks like it's actually been, made for real, right? And it's some simple primitives. And if you just take a wild guess and you're like, it takes an artist maybe 2 hours to make that pot, at the industry agreed upon average of 2014 for an artist at $75,000 a year salary, that pot costs $72 to make, if that's what your rate is. And we always say justify your rate. I can buy real pots for cheaper than this. And if you look in the asset stores, even if my guess is off by a factor of 2, if people are like, I can make that pot in an hour, come on. Okay, so it's a $36 pot. I can go get an entire kitchen set in the marketplace for $36. It's a bad investment of our time and our money to make that pot. And besides, what artists like making pots? They want to make the hero characters, right, or the cool vehicles. So assets take a lot of time to make and finalize. This includes art, audio, animation, and speaking as two ex-lead animators, it's just too long. Our strength as a studio lies elsewhere. We're really good at innovating on mechanics and giving you an interesting experience when you play the game. And on top of that, we really like to focus on presence. I like to say that, it's the forest through the trees experience, right? Like if you're focusing on the branch and the leaves of the tree and you gotta get this detail just right, you're gonna forget to make the forest. And in VR, being in a forest is way more important than a single tree looking exactly right. So, how do we make up this content deficit? For art, we usually visit first the UE4 marketplace. Those assets are curated and they're vetted, and you're probably going to get something that's pretty close to being game ready. For VR, typically the assets aren't exactly VR ready, but they're really close. They're probably game ready for more traditional game experiences. We also use, where's the trike from? Is that CG?
CG Trader.
CG Trader. But the other guns and the upgrades are straight from marketplace asset packs. That said, not all art assets are created equal. This is like a famous bed that I tweeted out that everybody kind of lost their minds about because that's obviously just imported collision, and the computer took a guess at what the collision should be, and it's nope. That's like a spider web of collision. And in VR, it's really bad because you could lean over and try and reach into that or throw something, and it's just gonna bounce out, and it doesn't feel real at all. The point is that the asset may or may not meet your needs. The point is you're going to have to look at and evaluate and fix every asset that you buy. This can be collision, it can be materials, maybe the material's not quite right for you. In a worst case scenario, we'll contract an art friend if the asset's really close to what we want and it's still the best of breed, but it's not quite right. But in the end, this is still the most cost-effective use of our time and money, since it's just the two of us. That bed, it's hard to see from the audience, is the bed that I corrected in Editor. I just started dragging in primitives and scaling them to the point where we got accurate collision for the bed. It took me 15 minutes. I can't make a bed in 15 minutes, so that was a really good purchase. So next up, we want to talk about audio a little bit. How do we engineer audio? You're going to need good audio for VR. Again, first stop, we go to Marketplace. Sometimes it's Pond5, sometimes it's the UE4 Marketplace, sometimes it's this website we really like called A Sound Effect. Sorry, I need to take a quick drink here. You can buy sound packs and bundles. You can get sound effect packs. You can get music or music packs. And again, we usually first stop as the marketplace. If we can't find it there, we go outside it and we try and find it wherever we can. The nice thing is even Tim Sweeney was saying that, like, hey, let's open up development. Like, get it where you can and bring it in, right? The only perfect audio is music. Everything else we have to remix when we buy an asset. You guess the sound effect might be right. It's not going to be. It's going to be close. For instance, our dino sounds are always 3 different animals blended together, or usually 3 sound effects from a same animal library blended together. Most sound effects require some layering. Usually you'll get like a thump, but it needs like a texture to it. Like for a footstep, you might need to hear like some leaves rattle or like a little bit of like a hiss after it. And to do that, we just wind up using Audacity. It's a free piece of software. There's lots of tutorials out there on the internet you can find for it, and they show you how to remix it and mix it down and bump it down into one track. Importing into Unreal is like painfully easy. You can literally just drag and drop it into the content browser if it's a WAV file. The only thing that plugs straight in when we buy it is music, because hopefully that song's done, right? And the song's what you wanted for the game. If not, maybe you bought the wrong music. But the problem with that, the downside is it also works this way for everybody else, so that we're buying royalty-free music. It means that the music isn't custom to our game. And this is a sacrifice we have to make. We're working on a budget, right? And again, this is still the most cost-effective use of our time and money. The nice thing is that when working with audio is that Unreal sort of does the rest for us. It makes our lives really easy. 3D spatialization and attenuation is built right into the editor. We literally just drag and drop audio in. We had a funny conversation. I won't say who it was with, but it was with a very prominent and high-priced audio engineering team. And they were like, oh, audio engineering is so important to VR. You got to make sure that the attenuation's right and the spatialization's right, and you got to get good engineers encoding it for you and everything. And I was like, yeah, that's cool. We just use Unreal 4. It just works. So they've got good guys who did that for us. So literally, it's just an example of how we do it. This is my content browser. Sorry, I bumped that microphone. And I'm looking for a cicada sound effect to drop into the jungle so that you'll hear the cicadas as you run by. And there's the wave files. I made a cicada queue that loops. It has a bunch of other wave files in it that'll randomize through it. So the next time you play through it, it might sound like different cicadas when you drive by it. I literally drag it from the browser. I drop it in the level file, and this is what appears. You see those 2 volumes around the area. Those are the attenuation volumes for it. If you're outside of that large volume, it doesn't sound like anything. And as you cross through that and go towards the middle, it gets louder. And it also puts it spatialized in your ears through 3D properly. If you don't like the way that it came in, if you feel like you set the attenuation wrong on the actual cue, you get a details pane in the editor that you can go in and change it. Just really quickly, really easily. Change the size of it, change, you can actually turn off spatialization so you always hear it like it's like a headset coming out of your ears if you want. Unreal makes it really, really easy to work with. So lastly, what I want to cover really quick is what Jeremy's going to get into deeper in a minute here is how do you make new features when you don't have programmers? Jeremy and I don't know a lick of C++. We're not programmers, but we play them on TV. And we use the Blueprint system, right? I don't know, are people here familiar with Blueprints already? Have people been using them? Yeah, they're pretty awesome. So, this is what code would normally look like. I don't know, that we don't use it. So I just took a guess. And here's an oversimplified view of what it looks like when you're in Blueprint, right? Those 2 things are not the same thing, but you get what I'm getting at. We're both visually oriented people, and this makes our lives so much easier. This speaks to my language. So we like to say that UE4 blueprints disrupt traditional game development. They are faster than code for making new features. I will swear on a stack of any Bibles that this is true. I'll race any programmer to a new feature in a contest if you want. And I'm slow. Jeremy's the fast one, and I'll still beat the programmer. So what it does is it democratizes development down to this lowest common denominator that the designer can make new tools, the audio engineer can make new tools, the artist can make new tools, the level designer can make new tools. We don't have to worry about the tech barrier, right? The biggest issue that I've had in game development from creative director, lead designer, animator is I need a tool to make the game. I go to the programmer and I say I need X, Y, and Z. I've drawn it out on a whiteboard. I've gone on our wiki and I've listed drawings of how the player should experience the feature and how it should happen, and I've done written instructions for it. And when it comes back, I didn't get X, Y, and Z. I got W, Y, and F. And it's just a communication barrier. It's not that the programmer didn't care or that he thought he had a better idea. It's just that communication got in the way. Now I don't have to worry about it anymore. We don't have to worry about it. We just make what we want. The other issue is that new blueprints integrate really, really easily. What's happening is that we're seeing that there's no longer the need for the merge anymore and risk breaking the game. We can just keep working and keep making things using blueprints, and then when 4.14 comes out, we just build a new project, and the game works. Rarely do things actually break from it. In the past, when we've taken a new build or a new version from Epic, when we had a code-based engine, it's weeks worth of programmer time to make sure that the merge happens properly. So Blueprint speeds every aspect of game development up. And lastly, on the sliding way, go beyond prototyping. You can ship blueprints. Again, we worked on a very tech-heavy team, and they didn't trust us to ship blueprints. They didn't want to debug our blueprints. And things that would take designers 3 weeks to make, it was taking programmers 3 months to rebuild in code that were bug-free. And in the end, that was a bad use of everybody's time. The game would have been better, the game would have been bigger, we would have had more features in it if we would have all just stayed in blueprints and the programmers would have helped us debug the blueprints. We like to say, if you can think it with blueprints, you can make it. It is a little bit like this, I apologize for this slide, but we found a language that we can build virtual worlds with. It really feels like this. I figured that using the Matrix was like the best possible example. If the Matrix actually existed, I'm pretty sure it would be built in blueprints. So UE4 makes it possible for us. I want to say, like, without any qualification, that CloudGate would not exist in its current format if we didn't have Unreal 4. Codeless development was not possible in UE3. You had to have programmers building features for you. Kismet wasn't powerful enough. It was a level-based tool. It doesn't compile down very well at all. It's not very performant. And we couldn't do what we do with Unity. And I'm not throwing down. Unity is an amazing tool. I've worked with teams that have used Unity before, but we're not programmers. And you need programmers to use Unity. Similar with CryEngine. Great engine. We can't use it. So again, we're just 2 devs. We made 2 premium VR games in 5 months. And anybody in this room can do it too. We're not special. We just work really hard. So here to talk about more about the details, nuts and bolts, is Mr. Jeremy Chapman, our Chief Creative Officer and my partner in this company.
Thank you, Steve.
Awesome. Awesome.
Well, so here we are. If you're here to listen to us talk, we really hope that what you are perceiving of us is that we're some kind of UE4 gods. We know what we're talking about, guys.
I'm the guy on the right.
Yeah. Fortunate truth here is we're new to this. We send this meme back and forth to each other on a weekly basis whenever we try to make something new and then step on the rake and it hits us in the face and we realize we're not as far along as we think we are. It goes back to what Wes said. We're always learning. You can never stop learning, and as soon as you realize that, you're setting yourself up for great things. So with that out of the way, I don't expect I'm going to blow anyone's mind here with regards to kind of the basics of game development. I mean, that's why we're all here, and I'm sure some of you that have been doing this longer than us are going to cringe at a lot of the things I have to say. That said, all I can tell you is how we do things and how we've come a long way in the last year with what we do. So key for us is to fail fast. As soon as we can find out 10,000 ways not to make a light bulb, we can find the way to make the light bulb. And really, you don't know until you try. Just get out there and get your hands dirty with blueprints and figure things out. We always say don't get attached to the first thing you make because it's probably terrible and, and it's probably wrong and there's probably a better way to do it. The CloudGate motto is that you're going to build it 2 or 3 times. So we kind of get used to that mentality when we're building tools and features, and it's just kind of how it works. So for us, you know, we've done 2 projects now, all Blueprint VR UE4 projects. We feel that blueprints have been proven in production. That's why we keep saying you can ship blueprints, because we're doing it and it's working, and no one is complaining that blueprints, that, oh, I bet this game would have been better if it was code. No, it doesn't happen. Blueprints are powerful, and this is one of the things that drew us to, well, pretty much made it no contest for UE4, that blueprints are essentially the fiber of UE4. They're one and the same to us, that they've done such a great job of integrating it everywhere, that it really does open up a ton of possibilities for you. That you really have access to just about everything you'll need, unless you're trying to do some absolutely insane stuff. But again, we're making run around an island and shoot dinosaurs. We're not reinventing the wheel here. And yes, you can ship blueprints, but probably for VR, we think the biggest strength is in rapid prototyping. An example of this is our VR locomotion system. So I think you could see in that video, I'm not sure if the frame rate was quick enough, but we're using a mechanic similar to, we call it the sprint mechanic. It's not a teleport, it's not a blink. You're actually lerping to the location really fast over time. And I think we pretty much knew we wanted to do that from the start. And we went through a bunch of iterations of that. But every time we failed at it, we realized a better way to fix it, and it really didn't take that long to make the new way to do it. We're at an exciting stage, I think, in with VR where it is that the quicker you can come up with something, the quicker you can get in there and get your hands dirty. It's not inconceivable that you could create a new industry standard for this platform that could persist for decades, as long as you get it out there and put it in front of people. So we're going to talk a little bit about the problems that Steve and I face as a two-man team of non-programmers. We're limited, we're learning, and one of the things that we have a limitation on is time and building logic, building gameplay. So how do you avoid making gameplay repetitious? How do you keep it exciting? And how do you make what your project is more than a tech demo? Now, Island 359 is early access, it's out, and we released it at a point where we felt it was a strong experience, we felt that it was ready for market, and it was in a place where now we're ready to expand the content dramatically, and I'm going to try to explain how we're planning to do that. So as time is your most valuable resource, you want to avoid repetitious work even more. That is something that blueprints excel at for us. And as Wes was saying, optimization performance never stops. It's especially important for VR. You've got to hit that 11 milliseconds. And as a two-man team, it's interesting when there's no one else to blame. You can't say, oh, tech dropped the ball, I'm sorry, I didn't make it in. It's like, no, you wanted to go to Taco Bell for lunch, and then you didn't get your new feature in the game, sorry. If you point the finger, roughly 50% of the time it points right back to you. So be careful with that. So how do we keep things interesting? Reusing blueprint actors. This is, again, not going to blow anyone's mind here. Object-oriented programming has been around for a long time. But building parent classes and then getting more specific into child classes and building a lot of different functionality into the children is a great way to maximize your time and create a lot of variety. Try to avoid using the single-use blueprints. If it's a one-and-done throwaway thing, in the level blueprint, for example, as we were touching on with Kismet, being contained to the level is great for really, again, the fast prototyping, the proof of concept stuff, but if you want to make an actual game and you plan to reuse something, definitely consider making it a blueprint class out the gate, and you'll probably have a lot less regrets. Same thing with tools. Unreal makes it really easy to reuse your tools. Early on, we made a lot of mistakes of rebuilding the same function over and over again in a bunch of classes that were unrelated, and turns out, hey, there's actually a thing. They thought of this already. I'm sure it's been around forever. Functions, macro libraries. You can reuse these on any actors. It's you create your logic anywhere, apply it to any actor that can actually use it. Makes for easy iterations and changes. And when you know that it's all going through the same pipe, through the same location, the same bottleneck, you can debug that action a lot simpler. Unreal makes it really easy to add variation. One thing I've been falling in love with lately is the construction script. That was another intimidating thing at first, and then when I figured it out, now it's probably my favorite thing to start doing is making these crazy, almost just tool sets for us to use. Let's see here. Yeah, anything you can do to randomize the objects that you have, anything that you can do to make gameplay more procedural helps when your content is limited. So, blueprints inside of blueprints. There's a number of things you can do to make your blueprints grow exponentially in their complexity. And that is to not use the single blueprints, but build a blueprint and either Unreal also has actor components, blueprint components. You can also add blueprints as child actors inside of other blueprints. I think I'm probably going to say blueprints 10,000 times today. But this is a quick example of using the complex parent classes and simpler children. When we started making our Interact system, our hierarchy is basically the item class. And you can see on our item class, there's a pickup function. When you make a child of the item class, which is the weapon class, over on the right-hand side, you can see that it's still running the parent class's pickup function, but then it's running all this extra logic in addition to it. Then you get down to the final class of the actual gun itself, and that graph could actually be completely empty. It's not, the graph itself isn't doing anything. It's only running parent functions, and essentially all we're doing is filling out vars. It's paint by number at that point. Drop in your marketplace asset. Here's the new gun mesh. Here's the new audio or particle effects. We have different variables for tuning in there, recoil speeds, things of that nature, all the effects. So that's an example of sort of the object-oriented programming and ways to keep things expansive. An example of the child actor situation is the buttons in our UI menus. So in this example, essentially what you're doing is, there's going to be 100 buttons in your UI. As you can see in our video, we want to keep things very physical in Island 359, reach out and touch things. There's a million ways you can do UI in VR, but we wanted to be reach out, touch something, pull the trigger, enable the functionality of the thing. And we keep that all in one button actor. It's all self-contained, and then it sends an activation event to the parent. And then the parent is just this custom menu, and reach out and touch. Each button already has its own logic built in, and then you're just defining in the parent what the actual thing does. This is probably wrong. This is probably on the second or third iteration. We're finding better ways to do things all the time. And even as I was going through these notes, I was like, yeah, there's a better way to do this. But quick example, anyway. So probably where we're at now, we really feel strongly that Island 359 needs to be a big game. We don't want to get hung up on simple gimmicky mechanics or anything. We want this to be a full-featured experience. And what we learned early on was we were starting to build too much of our mission logic in the level blueprint, and that was a kind of a non-starter. There's no way we're going to be able to make 100 different missions that way. So we had to kind of put everything together into a big, giant blueprint thing that we're calling the mission system. As missions, as you break them down, they're just a series of objectives. Objectives are their own blueprints, then they get added to the mission blueprint. And this is all assembled in the editor. There's a ton of different options you can put into these things. And, anyway, yeah, you dragging the mission actor into the world, filling in all the vars on the right. You can define everything you need to define about it. And this is how we're planning to get a lot more content out than anyone should believe that two people are capable of doing. At least that's the idea anyway. Creating your custom objectives, adding them however you want. And objectives are their own thing as well. So there's a master objective class, and then there's child objective classes that draw on those. So again, I know programmers cringing everywhere. This is not blowing anyone's mind, but this is how we as a small team need to work. So other gameplay challenges that we're facing. actor streaming, it becomes a pretty big deal in VR, and it's not just GPU load, but CPU load is a huge bottleneck as well. So, especially when you're making a giant open world game, there's a lot of stuff that needs to get streamed. So we had to find solutions for AI streaming. Basically anything that's not set dressing or environment in our game is dynamically streaming. Unloading it when we're not needing it. Anything to keep the CPU below 11 milliseconds is great too. So it might feel like this when you look at using blueprints. You might feel like you're drowning in modularity, all these little pieces. But when you learn how to use them and put them in the right order, it can enable someone like me who a year ago had no idea how to do this to start making and shipping games with the engine. So now, okay, you've made a game, you're ready for packaging and getting it ready. Making a build in UE4 is super easy. Do it around your first playable, and it's probably going to be wrong. You're probably going to have errors. You're going to have to fix them. You're going to have to learn how to do that. It's not as scary as you might think it is. Fix your errors. Probably fix your warnings. We're bad about fixing our warnings, but you're only going to compound your issues if you don't get to fixing them. Yeah, this is actually something that maybe shouldn't have been so intimidating from the start, but when you've never done it before, you pretty much build it up as this thing that only programmers can do. Because a lot of times they will use their own custom tools to make building a lot easier, especially for larger projects. And this will probably change as we grow and get into more complex projects. But at our stage, we don't need a programmer to do it. Seriously, we can do it. As we've learned with anything with UE4, they tend to think of things and they make it easy for us. But yeah, sure, if you're not comfortable, still ask a programmer. So when we were shipping Brookhaven, the demo, as Steve said, it was a two-man job the whole way through. We got done, we figured out how to make a build, and we got to the point where we needed to get it on Steam. And that's where we got some excuses, and we got the tech veto. And they just said, just don't worry about it. We'll get to it when we have time. You guys will never be able to figure it out. Just take a step back, guys. And that didn't fly with us. So that night, I went home, basically watched the tutorials. Actually, hey, Steam makes it pretty darn easy to get something up there. Made our shipping build. All we needed was access to the store. And then later that night, probably within an hour from when I started it to when I finished it, I sent out an email and said, hey guys, I got the game on Steam. And then privately sent Steve this little meme here, because this was a super empowering moment for us and a pivotal moment for CloudGate, which hadn't started yet, but this meant that not only did we start from a blank scene in UE4, we had made a game, we had packaged the game, and we had uploaded it to a digital distribution marketplace. And that was the moment when it clicked that, oh, two guys can actually do this. And two guys without the experience of ever doing this before. This was an insane moment. So basically, what I'm trying to tell you right now is if we can do it, you can do it. We feel like Blueprints and Unreal have done a great job of democratizing game dev, especially for creatives and people who aren't technical. That's not to say that we haven't completely busted our asses to get here and worked incredibly hard and had to put in a lot of hours and banged our head against the wall a lot. But we did it, and it could have been anyone up here, but this has all been in the last year that any of this has happened. Yeah, any of you could be up here right now, but I mean, is this working?
Yep.
Basically, I love this quote because it kind of defines why we're here. We had an idea and we executed on it. It was a huge risk. We put our families at risk, our futures, and we couldn't be happier now to control our own destiny and be able to make the content that we want to make, and wouldn't be possible without UE4. So Steve is going to finish up here and talk a little bit about how we do things on the Steam store.
Yep. Thank you, Pierre. Actually, super quick. Can you guys hear me? Am I live?
Yep.
All right. I'm just going to pour a little bit more water in here for a second. So if you're doing it yourself, I imagine there's a lot of people here on teams or bigger teams. There might be some people here who are just indies doing it on their own. This is really, we were part of a bigger company when we did this, and we still had to do it on our own. And the point that we're making is that with Unreal and with Steam, you can do it by yourself. So one thing to know is that when you get started on this is that the store itself is going to take you a little bit, it's going to take a while to set up. That there's just a lot of hoops you have to jump through. You're going to need to create a lot of iconic flat art. There's a lot of different file formats that you need. For your screenshots, the file sizes and formats, you're going to have to make an ICO file. That took a long time because there's no ICO file format in Photoshop. Finally, eventually, I think I found a website that will convert it for you or something like that. So, sorry, I keep hitting the mic. I'm sorry, everybody out there. And then trailers. Oh my God, you're gonna have to make a trailer. It's pretty much a requirement now, anywhere, whether you're on iOS or Steam or anything. And it really does help sell the product. And know that if you're gonna make a trailer in VR, you're gonna be at it for a long time. It's really challenging. We've made a lot of game trailers in our time, and making them in VR is really insane. I'm just gonna tell them a story how we made our trailer. So the Vive preview window in UE4 is a 3:4 aspect ratio. I call it left eye Lopez. You only get the left eye, and which you have to get one of the eyes in VR. It's not that the left eye is the critical eye. It's that the format of the screen is impossible to shoot a trailer on. Nobody wants to see this tiny thing. And we were like, how are we gonna shoot our trailer? We can't get a wider preview window out of it, until Jeremy remembered when he was playing around with their Oculus Touch kit that there's a Mirror Mode 4 version in Oculus. So we wound up shooting our Vive trailer using Oculus Touch in Mirror Mode 4 to get a 16:9 preview window. And that was really rough. And I mean, because you can't turn around. So we had to keep editing our footage. I think I shot for 6 hours straight or something like that. And then we edited our trailer together, and I realized I didn't have good frame rate for the trailer, and I had to do it all again the next day. So good luck. You're trying to capture a 90 frame per second thing on your computer. You're probably using software because you can't afford a giant video cart, to do hardware capture with. And just good luck. It's going to take you a while. So, and also you're going to have to do a ton of details about your game, which was really overwhelming at first to know how many different aspects of the store we had to fill out. The good news is that Steam's checklist makes this really, really easy for you. Unfortunately, I couldn't show you what the before checklist looks like because you have to start a new Steam app to see the undone checklist. So here's our completed checklist. This is a very happy checklist. Everything's done. And we're released. There's our launch date, August 23rd at 10 a.m. Pacific. And it seems intimidating at first, but really just kind of jump in and just try and use the little gamified checklist and just try and get through as many things as you can per day, and you're going to get through it. So we have to back up a step because to get a Steam page, you're going to need to incorporate. So, and it's not that running a Steam business is difficult, the good luck you're going to need it. It's that starting a corporation is actually really involved. And I've done an LLC before outside of CloudGate a while back to protect myself when I did a card game. And that was easy. It was just me. I was a sole proprietor. LLC was perfect for me. But as a team, based on varying team sizes, you've got some options. Obviously, the LLC is an option. It's the cheapest. But it's actually difficult to do with multiple founders, and I don't think people understand this. We didn't. We had to have a lawyer tell us that there's no bylaws to protect you from the other founders. And you guys are in love now, and you're business married, but that's not always going to be the case. Divorces happen, and you want that protection. What if your founder goes off the rails and commits a felony? Well, LLCs don't cover that. C corporations do. You're protected by federal law. There's a ton of bylaws based in C corps, and they're way more expensive. But for multiple founders and the fact that we wanted to remain open for the potentiality of a Series A and doing the whole startup thing and getting bigger investments down the road, and VCs, angels, all of those guys, they won't deal with you unless you're a Delaware C Corp. So we just bit the bullet right off the bat and went to C Corp. It was actually easier than going the LLC route because we would have the lawyer create all of those bylaws for us. So anyway, this is like the really boring part, and I'm sorry, but it's still part of building a Steam store. Doing that will get you a federal tax ID for your business, and you're going to need that to get a corporate bank account, which is a requirement of having a Steam page. They're going to have to pay you somehow, and they will only do it if you have a corporate bank account to transfer the funds to. So running a store, page, game is challenging, but it's a lot of fun and it's very rewarding when you get it done. But know that running your own company on top of that is even more challenging. So, sort of wrap this up, just as a reminder, this is what we pulled off, 2 guys in 5 months using Unreal 4. 2 90 frame per second performant VR games that have been critically acclaimed. Lots of people love them. If you haven't played I-1359, please go out there and play it. I promise you, you're gonna love it. But what we wanted to get across was, how can your company, or how can you as an individual, use UE4 Blueprints? It's free. If you're afraid to use it, don't be. Just go download it and start playing with it. Use the tutorials that Wes talked about. That's how we learned. You know, starting in 2014, we jumped into the YouTube tutorials, and they even update those. If they were made in like 4.7 or 4.8, they go in and they annotate them for things that have changed so that they still stay relevant. But more importantly, we're 2 guys. If you have a 6-person team, what could you accomplish if you were allowed your employees to use the same kind of leverage we do with the editor by focusing on blueprints, right? What could you do with 12 or 40 or 100 people? So we really want all of you to go out and try this at home, because believe it or not, it makes our lives easier when everybody else uses blueprints the same way that we do. It's the Elon Musk idea of like, here's the patents, everybody use them because it drives the price down on them, on all the parts, right? If everybody else is out there using blueprints, what happens is that there's more shared assets in the store, because people are like, I got this really great pack that's super, easy for me to use, and they release it for free. Like Epic is always happy to support stuff if everybody's using it. And more importantly, the ask forums become more robust because the more people who get stuck and ask questions, those questions get answered. So then when we get stuck and we type the same question in, there's an answer for us. So at any rate, that's the talk. Thank you all for coming. We wanted to thank our friends at Epic and at Valve for making this adventure happen for us and being able to do this talk. So if you guys have questions, we're going to be up here for a while. I think we've got some time left. So we're happy to answer anybody's questions.
Thanks for an absolutely wonderful talk. My favorite so far.
Oh, thank you.
Good.
I'm a programmer. Would you recommend that I drop coding? I love C++.
No.
Would you recommend that I drop coding and go to Blueprints?
No, not entirely. Not in our opinion.
Yeah, no. So it all depends. Obviously we come from a different mindset, right? Our ideal programmer is somebody who's willing to work in Blueprints and like debug what we're doing and show us the proper way to make stuff in case we're doing it wrong, and especially at least make our tools in Blueprints, right? One of the most powerful things you can do as a coder is make Blueprint nodes for the team instead of just keeping them in C++. But if you're a one-man team and you rock the world in C++, keep using it. Sorry, we're running to the next question here.
Hello, I'm a programmer as well, and I got to say, I would have loved to have worked with you guys because it always frustrated me on my team that my artists were getting me to do things in Blueprint, which I know they could have been doing themselves, and you've proven that, and I could have been doing the Xbox One port single-handedly rather than trying to do a scoring system for them. So. Yeah. Brilliant, and I love your story. The question I've got is, I'm a startup myself, and I'm having real trouble recruiting artists. It's just really difficult. So when I looked at your game and buying all the assets off the store, I had a quick look at your Steam trailer, and it looks very professional. It doesn't look like it's a bunch of assets you've downloaded, put together, and put some lighting on. Was there any finessing of those assets that you needed to do? I know you had to do the capsule art, or the lozenges for the Steam. How much massaging of those assets did you have to do? Because I'm struggling with it.
Well, some of it is that there's a lot of stuff out there now, and a lot of it's just shop around. you got to kind of look at it with an artful eye of seeing how far can I get with this asset, and does it really fit with my aesthetic style that I'm going for? Like, obviously, you're not going to buy the cartoony polygonal tree pack for your realistic forest, but even there's a ton of assets out there now, and you have a lot to choose from. But to answer your question more directly, yeah, everything pretty much needs a little once-over, but it's a technical once-over. Again, we try to find stuff that's going to fit within the art style, and for us, realistic art style in UE4 is really easy to find. But for all of the foliage that we use, I did have to go through, and I used with the Adobe Suite, you have access to the Mixamo tools. They have a tool called Decimator, and I basically ran all of our high-res meshes, just anything I could, like Wes was saying, aggressive LODs, just decimated the crap out of them. But they look fine, they look great. So just creating your own LODs for things was probably one of the biggest things that we've had to do. Sometimes creating a master material, sometimes the materials that are set up aren't super performant or not exactly what you want, or you need a master material to control them all. So, I don't know, did that answer your question?
One of the things that, Jeremy is way more skilled at 3D art than I am. And one of the things that I look for when I'm buying assets is I will, you keep like 40 tabs open. Like, for instance, a really great example was I needed a bucket. Like, we've got a puke bucket on the chopper that you use to skip the helicopter ride. And I needed a good bucket. And, I thought I only need the one bucket, and I stopped on Turbo Squid, and then there's a lot of buckets on there, and like none of them were what we needed. They were either like too shiny, or they were plastic, or like they just didn't suit our needs. And I think I looked for a bucket for maybe over an hour. I was really like,
time.
Yeah, it was great. But the problem is that you want to make sure that you are actually effectively shopping. Like, in the end, I wound up buying a marketplace asset that had a bucket in it, because the Turbo Squid buckets were going to be like, the good buckets were like $35 for a bucket, and again, I'm like, that's a bucket. I don't want to pay $35 for one bucket, dude. And
Hero bucket though.
Yeah, it was a hero bucket. So the point is that we found like I don't even remember how much it was. I know it was $35 or less for the whole pack, and I got it just for one bucket. But I got everything else with it too, and it wound up being the best bucket. And I still had to redo the collision on it when I brought it in. So. Anyway, so the point is this, and it's okay to spend a little bit of time investment in finding the best possible asset you can, rather than the fastest one that you can find to get you to prototyping. So.
Hey guys, so I'm doing a game. I've been doing it myself, solo, for I guess about 5 months. Same thing as you guys, CG Trader, Turbo Squid. Also, the marketplace using UE4. It's a game about phobias, so I'm downloading clowns, spiders, scorpions, the whole nine. I have a build I'm ready to release, and I'm on the edge of like putting it out there in the early access. Did you guys have any reservations about the early access? Do you have any negative response when you're using the early access, or is it something that's been beneficial to you guys? Because I'm still trying to figure out when's the best timing.
Yeah, I mean, we got Island 359 to a point where every demo we did of it, people left with a smile on their face, and people saying, yeah, I think this is ready. We basically came to that conclusion just through a lot of play testing and demoing. But as far as early access, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why we released when we did. Some of them, that was one side of it. The other side is, this is business. We have a business plan, and we had to release at a certain point. A lot of things came together, and it's great in the fact that it helps extend your runway. It can be used to fund your game, or right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Reactions to early access. Yeah, there's people of all different opinions when it comes to early access. I actually just deleted a comment out of our Steam community forum the other day because he was just some guy protesting early access in general, posting on every early access title he could find about how terrible it was. And then someone pointed out, you have 320 hours in this early access game, and now you want a refund?
Yeah.
So
you're
a lot of opinions.
You're always going to run into, like, you have to realize that you can't please everybody all the time, and there's going to be people who are angry about it being out in early access. I don't understand why, or why anybody would be mad about that, because they have an option, and that's not to buy it, right? Rather than being mad that it's out in early access. So, it's a your mileage may vary thing. If you don't need to have it out in early access, then don't put it out in early access. Like if it's a passion project on the side and you know you're going to spend more time getting it to where you want, then don't. We released it because there's only one launch year for VR. And again, the runway issue, we wanted to make sure that we were pulling in some kind of revenue to try and extend our runway. But so we wanted to participate again in the launch year of VR. And if we held it back, even if we raised more funding, we would have missed out. So we wanted to be out and be part of the conversation because it allows for opportunities like this and to be part of that experience. So again, it's definitely going to be a personal opinion. There's no slam dunk, like one answer meets all.
And it also kind of depends on your development philosophies too of whether you want community feedback or not. We kind of set out being like, no, we have a rigid plan. This is what we're sticking to for Island 359. And then after we released, we kind of did find that some of these people have some pretty good ideas for how we can improve the game. And
yeah, you get some free beta testing.
Yeah, free beta testing
play
is
testing
valuable. So, and yeah, there's not a lot of Vives out there, but these people are buying them and they're passionate about it, and they're giving you feedback. You never know. It is kind of difficult to play test VR games with people who've never played VR before. You think you've developed a super solid mechanic, and then you give it to your dad, and he's like, jumping on top of things he's not supposed to get on top of, or like actually taking the controller and putting it in this hand and reaching with his hand to grab stuff, and you're like, I guess you're not exactly the target demographic. And it's great having people that are actually passionate about, they're passionate enough to buy the early adoption hardware, Getting them to actually play it, actual customers to play it it's great feedback. Yeah. It's exactly what you need.
Who's next? Do we have another?
Yep. Hey guys, great presentation.
Thank you.
Quick question for you. I'm not a programmer. We work with programmers. We have guys who work with in the office and stuff. And I was talking to some guys yesterday about a new feature or newer feature for UE4 where you can compile down the blueprint to C++. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering if you guys did that and if you had any problems with that.
You guys use the Blueprint native?
We have not used it yet. We've been able to get our builds to run at frame rate on min spec for the most part. That's caveat, because we are trying to do something that's probably when we really break it down of like, yeah, you want to make a VR open world game with a crap load of foliage.
Just don't.
It's hard, but I already lost my train of thought.
Sorry, but it's the
oh yeah, we haven't really had
C++ performance,
but we want to. I mean, actually learned a lot from Wes's talk. So
yeah,
we're gonna go back and add some stuff to our game.
Yeah, especially if it's a checkbox in there, we can definitely just tick it and see if we get some CPU improvement out of it, which I'm sure we're going to see some, right? Yeah. It's like 10 to 15% of a CPU improvement. But yeah, I mean, the nice thing is that blueprints are already really performant. VR is going to push your CPU and your GPU harder than any other game out there. Well, not the CPU, but at least the GPU. And the point is that, and at the last job we had, we would have programmers tell us, again, tech-centric place, they ran the place. That's not normally a problem. We love programmers. We're not anti-programmer. But the issue is that they'd be like, well, blueprints are 10 times more expensive than C++. And I'm like, that's accurate, but the problem is that C++ is actually running at 1,000th of a tick for perf. And if a blueprint's 10 times more expensive than that, we're already at 1/100th of a tick. And the blueprint never comes up as the thing that's bottlenecking our game. It's always dynamic shadows. It's always actor count. It's always, there's a way bigger red flag, like the blueprints are somewhere down here. There's always something that's a way bigger perf hit than the blueprint for us, so.
Do you know the actual performance gains? I've heard like 50x or something.
I'm sorry?
The actual performance gains from being C++ versus blueprint. What?
It's going to depend on your project. There's no real, I guess, real example. I mean, it just depends, like what you're using. The best way to do it is to try it out, run the performance profiling, see what gains you're getting, compare that against using blueprints and see. That would be my advice.
It's going to be different for every game.
Yeah.
If you're making a chess game, it's different than if you're making a McDonald's ball pit game, and it's all physics all the time.
Yeah.
And it's going to hammer your CPU.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Sure. Mm-hmm. I think we have a few more minutes.
One more.
A couple more up here.
Hi. I just had really a curiosity question. A lot of the VR stuff that we see feels sometimes like a tech demo. They're very short or but you guys seem to want to bring Island 359 into quite of a lengthy game. So just out of curiosity, like how much gameplay do you guys think you'll have by the end of it?
I don't want to make a prediction just yet, but we, when I talked about the mission system, that was basically our way of saying we're trying to set ourselves up for the future and try to reuse as much as we can and get as much mileage out of our limited time as we can get. We plan to tackle VR gameplay. We know that sometimes it's hard to spend a lot of time in VR. Some people just don't want to. Some people want to get in for 5 minutes, do something, and leave. So our goal with Island 359 is to have a bunch of different modes in there. We want to have a kind of shorter wave shooter mode, if that's really what you want. Have a mode that you can stay in for, like our current modes are mercenary modes. Like make a run. Sometimes people are in there for up to 2 hours doing the same run, try to get your high score. And in the background now, we're working on campaign mode, again, with mission systems. And all future mercenary mode missions are going to be using the mission system as well. But it's just our way of trying to build the back end for this thing. We're going to be building our world composition streaming island. We're shooting for probably 4x4 kilometer island that you can actually traverse in VR. And arting that up is going to be fun, but other than that, I mean, the tech is there. It's not a question of if we can do it or not at this point. It's just can we make a lengthy content interesting? Because we don't want to have a lengthy game at the expense of being super boring. Because they're dinosaurs, for crying out loud. We need those experiences. We need those moments. And if you're not planning for moments in VR, you're making a mistake. So.
Yeah, we're definitely aiming towards building out the campaign mode. We've talked about it, like, not to go in too deep as specifics, but like we've been clear, at least with the early access audience, that it's going to be more of an RPG style game that you play. And we already have, like, there's things that nobody's really caught on to this yet, but there's already player upgrades in the game in the mercenary mode that when you take the health pills or the stamina pills and you make a choice, what we're doing is we're actually upgrading your character. You're increasing your health, you're increasing your stamina, and that's like a skill tree, right? That's like a player increase tree. Like, I'm gonna give myself +2 strength. Like, well, we can do that, and we can do it in an interesting way in VR. And so we already have some of those hooks built in, and we're using them in mercenary mode, and we're just gonna blow those things out eventually for the campaign mode with missions.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
For your hand interaction models, are you just attaching like the 413 template, or are you using like physics anchor based setup?
So our interaction system was the first thing we started on, very first thing we started building, which means it's also the most not non-performant, but non-technically beautiful system.
You can say it's the most broken.
It's the most broken system.
It needs to be refactored.
But no, we started in 4.11. Yeah. So, we already had the Brookhaven demo experience of learning how things attach to hands and how to use the motion controllers. What we ended up doing, and I know there's cooler ways to do this now, which again, it's kind of too late for us, but we're simply reaching over something when it gets the overlap, when it detects that it's being overlapped, it will simply parent to your hand. So it's just parented to the motion controller component, and we just map buttons. This drop button is going to detach it and then get the get the linear physics velocity or whatever of the hand and apply it as an impulse to the thing as it flies away. That way we have control. We can multiply that. If you want to throw something really far, you can do that. Or so that's the way we have it set up now. I know that there are really awesome physics constraints things where you can actually have something in your hand, try to go through the chair, and the thing will stay on the chair to avoid clipping. I love that stuff. That looks awesome, but we've kind of made our bed. So we got to work with the system we have, because otherwise it's roll back all the things, and it's kind of too late for that.
Any other questions?
Cool.
It's cool if we don't.
Yeah.
Oh, there's somebody in the back over there.
Yeah, I was wondering, if you guys use a PR company?
Yeah, we don't. Well, I mean, technically, she's a company.
Yeah.
She's incorporated. But yeah, we have a PR firm that we use in Chicago that sort of specializes in indie developers. They're pretty well connected. They come from a pretty good marketing background. So it's Wheel and Spoke Strategy, I think is Dana's company name.
I think so.
And she definitely takes a lot of the weight off of us to help us out and get the word out, for our launch and like future updates. So yeah, we do use one.
It's not a constant thing though.
Yeah, and we're not like going to like a New York PR firm or anything like that. We couldn't afford anything like that. So, but yes, we do use some PR. Question up here?
Do you guys use level streaming to be able to put in like the extra levels when you go around?
We're going to. That's what we're going to have to do to solve the really large open world. Even though our levels feel really big when you're in them right now, they're not to the point where that's become any kind of an issue for us.
Technically one map?
What's that?
So it's technically one map that loads on?
Yeah, right now it's technically one map. I mean, we're trying new things now with the new mercenary mode setup, where we're building that all in one map and letting the game instance and stuff dictate what levels to stream in, and I'm doing a lot of level streaming with that. Basically having individual levels that are their own sort of persistent maps, and then they call all these other things to load in, all these other levels to load in. So far it's working in editor, but it's crashing in build. So
Yeah,
figure
so
that out.
we have to go back home and solve that. But I mean, we do have like the main menu, and we unload that, and we load the game level when you select what mission you want to do.
Yeah, that's true.
So we are doing that. I don't know if that fits your definition of the level streaming you're asking for.
But there is some benefits to doing it just like in general as far as a project management sort of standpoint, because we have found that with the current level in the game, I think it's like 1.5 gigs with all of the foliage actors in it and stuff. And so from that aspect, if especially if you need multiple people to be working on a map or different sections of a map, that's a really good instance to use streaming levels. So they just from a
Have you gotten around the problem where when you asynchronously load the next level, that frame rate actually drops because of the load of loading that?
Like how it drops to compositor basically when you're...
Sometimes, but essentially there's a bit of a load just because of the fact that you're now streaming in a lot more data.
Yes, so we haven't actually gotten to the point where this thing is actually working in the game, and we're not actually doing that dynamically either. I'm pretty sure world composition solves that from that standpoint. Like, that's something we already don't have to worry about. Unreal is taking care of that with that specific tool. Doing it manually, we haven't actually been doing it on the fly like that. It's all happening at load at this point. So if we get to that, I don't know, it remains to be seen. Again, we're
and there's a reason why when we load even in the first mercenary mode that's out, we do a like fade to black, and like old school game dev is like, just hold the black for like 3 seconds longer, like to load the level, stay at black for a few seconds, and then start fading up. And chances are, if there is a frame rate hitch or a performance hitch, they're going to see it while it's on black anyway. So if they're at black and they drop to compositor and they come back to black and the game fades up, like nobody's going to complain. They're going to be like, wait, that was weird, but they're not going to be like, well, the game's busted. So it's just like you can kind of try those tricks too if you want to like brute force it in. But
the main issue there is the fact that it does drop the compositor, and for some people it is a little bit disturbing that they get kicked out of the world they're in. Because even though you fade with black, it then drops to compositor, and if you have your gray space set up to be something else than a gray space or a black space, then you do drop out of the world you're currently in, and you come back.
Yeah, we haven't really seen that happen.
Well, when you're doing hard loads of levels, like when we start from the tutorial, and then we go into the other one. Yeah, we were talking to one of the guys.
That's what I'm saying. We keep you in.
One of the Valve guys last night about how they were doing those, because we're like, well, you got those in the lab, like how are you doing that? And they said it was overlays, right?
Yeah,
they're using overlays on throwing cards in front of your face at different depths. And that was new information to us, at the happy hour thing last night. So
we're going to go check that out.
We're going to go home and investigate that. But I mean, that could be, I don't know if that's closer to what you're kind of talking about. But
sort of, mostly just that drop is so.
Yeah.
Kicking you out of compositor is.
Oh yeah, nobody likes it.
No.
But yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
You got one more question back there? What time do we have? I just want to make sure we're not running over, because I think it's probably the last one, I think.
Hi there.
Hey.
Right now, I'm an indie developer doing everything myself through an LLC, so it's a lot easier to structure everything. And I've always wondered if I tried to tackle a project where I needed, 1, 2, 3 other people, how I would structure that. If it's not too personal, can you guys talk to how you made the decisions for forming the structure of your corporation and split up shares and that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So let's specifically answer your question. Are you going to hire people, or are you going to bring them in as equity hires?
That's something. I mean, I'm not quite there yet, but it's like I have already some ideas that I've thought of that would take more people to do. So I'm not really sure. If you have advice on that, I'll take it.
Well,
The business side, getting started, forming a team.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't feel like, for us, we've had this conversation where, we understand that hiring people now, now that we're on this side on the coin, it's life changing for people. Sometimes you're asking people to pack up and move and change their life, and they're putting a lot of trust in you to be your employee. We're not ready for that commitment yet, so if we need help, we're more inclined to hire people as contractors. And there's a lot of our art friends now are actually making really good livings working remotely and just taking on contract jobs. And if you do need people to do that sort of work, that's a really good way to go. They're out there. You just got to ask around. So now, unless you're talking, you actually want people, employees of your company, that's kind of like what Steve was saying. You kind of have to make the decisions of what you're willing to commit, and if you want to give up part of your company, some of your stake to them, to keep them around and keep them incentivized.
Yeah, I mean, it would likely be a situation where I would do a new corporation for that purpose with equity splits.
If you're going to go with equity splits, like if you're going to talk about multiple founders, you really should just go straight to the C Corp, because if you start with an LLC, what's going to happen is you're either going to have a bad lawyer who's not going to tell you that you need to establish founder bylaws about what happens when certain things trigger. And, there's very valid questions like, if I die, what happens to my shares, right? And the C Corp bylaws say things like, well, that triggers a clause that immediately allows the other founders a right of first refusal, and they can immediately buy the shares back from my wife. That no matter what happens, even if I will my shares to my wife, that bylaw, since it's a federal law, grabs hold of anything else and takes priority and says that no, if they want my shares back, they can buy them back. They can't just take them back. They have to, buy them from my spouse if I'm dead. But those are built right into the C Corp. LLCs don't have anything about that stuff, right? And like I said, there's all these situations. You're going to get business married. You're going to be like, we're on our honeymoon phase. Woo, we love each other. But things happen, and sometimes they're things that are beyond your control. And the C Corp bylaws covers all of those edge cases for you. But it's really expensive. It's like thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars.
It's about twice as expensive based on what we were looking at.
Yeah, it can be anywhere from twice to 10 times more expensive. If you did an LLC, but yourself, it's like 100 times more expensive. If you did it through LegalZoom, it's like 10 times more expensive. Yeah. If you did your LLC through a lawyer, it's twice as expensive, right? So, I mean, realistically, if you want to do a C Corp, you're looking at a minimum of a $10,000 spend on legal. So, it's not inexpensive to do a C Corp, but your butts are really protected. So I would definitely, if you're going to do an equity share, do not ever do an LLC. Don't.
Makes sense.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
How are we on time? I think we're right at 4:30. Do we have to stop, or are we? I don't see anybody else coming in.
If there's any other questions.
If anybody has any other questions, we're happy to answer them. Otherwise, that might be it. So, all right. Well, thanks everybody.
Thank you guys.
Sticking around.